Spotify gets into audiobooks, and Samsung continues to beat on blue bubbles. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by MacVoices Featured Gear, like the OWC Thunderbolt Hub. No matter which Mac you have, you can always use more connectivity, and the OWC Thunderbolt Hub delivers. Visit MacVoices.com/featured gear and do more with your tech. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Spotify continues to amaze us as they search for ways to be more relevant to their customers, and Samsung continues to be in search of blue bubbles. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. So I'm going to throw in the next story to both chat rooms. This is one about Spotify. I know it seems like we keep coming back to Spotify, but they keep doing strange things.
Yeah, I'm going to go off video. I'm listening. I'll be right back.
Okay. They are now advertising for their premium users a library of 150,000 audiobooks that you have access to. And you can listen with a Prime, their top tier, 15 hours a month. After that, if you've used up your 15 hours and you're in the middle of War and Peace, you have to buy another block of time for audiobook listening, which is 10 hours at a shot. Now, I haven't seen there are a lot of information I'd like to know here. One of which is that 15 hours at any speed? If I listen to things at double speed, does that mean I only get 7.5 hours? Or does that mean I can get effectively 30 hours in the 15? 150,000 books, who's deciding how and where they're getting that? And really, will this make a difference against Audible? Or will this entice anyone to subscribe as a supplement to the music service?
It will entice some people, but probably not a lot.
Yeah, I would agree. I think people who are inclined to be Spotify top tier users will embrace this with open arms and call it the greatest thing since sliced bread. Whereas people that already have an Audible subscription or they use some other type of audiobook service, and there's plenty of them out there, will say, okay, well, that's like 2 books a month, maybe. And if I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks, quite frankly, that wouldn't be enough to entice me to open up yet another subscription service beyond what I already have.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this would be a distant third between Audible and Canopy.
Yeah, there are services where you can get audiobooks for free through your local public library. I just listened to a Stephen King book on Libby, and the selection isn't great, but it is completely free. So, if you don't have the patience, or if the variety isn't there to use some of the free services, then subscribe to Audible or subscribe to this new service with Spotify and I guess enjoy your 2 books a month.
I'm not a Spotify user, and this is certainly not going to entice me. I am an Audible user. I'm a Libby user, and I just feel like this doesn't really apply to. I can't figure out who this applies to, because if I want to listen to music, music is a lot more casual listen than a book. And so if I want to listen to music, I'm going to listen to music, either intentionally or just passively. But a book, I have to make an intentional decision. I'm not just going to pop up and say, Spotify, well, not voice control, but Spotify, I want to read a political thriller, or I want to read a spy novel, and then have it suggest one for me. Yeah. Or for that matter, even if I just go in and say, I want to, I want something from Grisham or John Le Carre, great. But then that you don't just dip in and out of those books. You start them, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it just feels like this is not the same thing.
Yeah. You're right. It's not for casual use. It's intended use, and you have to want to listen to an audiobook and have a big chunk of time to do so. And if you do have all of those things, then 15 hours a month is likely not going to be long enough.
So I may have missed it, but did they announce a paid plan for more, or is it still something that's yet to come and be announced?
From what I've seen, Mark, it's there. It's going to be part of their top tier, but after 15 hours, then you have to buy another 10-hour block of audiobook listening time.
Right. That's what I was referring to. That's what I was referring to, is what's the additional block of time cost? Have they announced pricing for that?
I did not see it. Not so far anyway. So I don't know. But even so, I mean, I'm listening to Elon Musk's biography by Walter Isaacson, and that is clocking in, if memory serves, I think the total time is going to be 18 hours.
Yeah. So you couldn't even finish that one book.
Exactly. Or just have to plan on finishing it next month when my subscription gives me another 15 hours.
Delayed gratification, no thank you. They're going to, people will be punching the button on upgrades if they're hooked. That's why I'm so curious about why they've announced, hey, we're going to have this service, but they don't announce how much it costs to buy more time.
Yeah. Do we have audiobook listeners, regular audiobook listeners here in the audience? Ben?
Not regular, because I don't spend enough time. Typically, I'm listening to audio in my car, and my commute isn't long enough to go through the hassle of listening to 15, 20 minutes of a book at a time.
Yeah.
Well,
that raises an important point, which is, some of the audiobooks I have, the voice quality, they're just boring, so they've just been a turnoff on, trying other things. And so I think that is something that may impact on the Spotify service, because this has been leaked, in the past 6 or 8 weeks ago, that, they're going to use AI and synthesize voices and so on and so forth. I think they may have the problem of the so-called uncanny valley. Yes, it may automatically be generated, but, it's credible as a human voice. It's understandable as a human voice, but is acceptable and desirable as a human voice, because there are many podcasts that, I tuned in and interesting topic. I just can't stand the voice quality of the host. And, to me, okay, that's, it may as well not exist, because I just, completely refuse to come back, so
yeah. Well,
I
there's
think
a lot of,
will have the same problem.
There's a lot of YouTube channels like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of YouTube channels that use AI voices, and the lack of inflection, the lack of emotion, as you listen to it, and they get near the end of a sentence, or they get to a sentence that is a question, and you can tell just from listening to it that it's using those same inflections each and every time that it's using it, and it becomes monotonous and boring. And typically after 2 or 3 minutes, once I've realized that it is a computer generalized voice, it's like, you know what, I'm gonna go watch or listen to something else.
Yep.
I guess some people don't mind. My wife doesn't seem to mind, because she'll send me, here's a video, check out, and then I'll click on it and
yeah. I can't do it. I just
she liked
do
it. She liked it. So, I guess it must work, because it's, there's a lot of it out there. And it's pretty good, but it's, I can't stand it.
It's not even a matter of it being pretty good. The biggest problem, go ahead.
I also figure, to me, that's also an indication of, you can't even bother to voice it with a person.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't believe a word you're saying.
Yeah. If you can't be bothered to voice it yourself, or to bring in someone to do a credible voice for whatever the topic it is that you're doing, then yeah, why should I give a crap about whatever it is this video is trying to tell me? Exactly. You're right, Jim.
I was going to add.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Webb.
Just real quick, I was going to add that, I've never read one John Grisham book, but I've listened to every single one of them. Every one of those, they've brought in a professional voice actor, and they do the inflections and all that. And I really enjoyed them. Now, I always did that when I was driving someplace long distance, like when I was driving to Utah or Houston or someplace from Kansas City. So I was going to be in the car for 10 hours or whatever. And I really enjoyed it. Now I have a tendency to listen to more podcasts when I'm driving and not so much audiobooks. So Chuck, you asked me earlier, do I listen to audiobooks? I do some. I do more Kindle. Quite honestly, you and I were talking about the Walter Isaacson Musk book. I've got it. I'm about 40 pages into it. I think I was 10 pages into it last time you and I talked, and I just haven't had the time to sit down and read because I'm listening to too many podcasts, quite honestly. So that's what's taken over my life. But anyway, audiobooks, I like them. I don't do enough of them. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, happily, everyone should listen to more podcasts, preferably this one.
Yeah.
But that said, you're right. Now there's even more competition for your audio listening time, and that's why I guess I find this as Spotify's latest move. I mean, they're trying to take on another giant, and they're trying to take on Audible, along with the other small fry. So yeah.
Who would be, let's have a show of hands. Who would be, surprised if we see in 18 or 20 months, a news story saying, Spotify writes down, X number of dollars and lays off, Y number of people in failed efforts, to monetize, audiobooks.
Not me.
Not a bit.
Not me.
Not me. Mean you wouldn't be surprised.
No. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
I'd be more
I
surprised
think we're all
if
on
this
the same
works.
side. Yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't seen an article that Spotify's gone out of business.
Well, Spotify is still the largest streaming service out there. So
yeah,
it's just that I think they see the writing on the wall, or they just don't know how to combat all the other issues that are coming at them with Amazon and with Apple. Because both of those have their own, they have their own players and their own infrastructure. And Spotify is dependent upon being on those platforms to be consumed.
I had an image of, a crybaby of Spotify on last week's show, and listeners here, if you haven't seen that, go back to that. But I think the thing about Spotify is, they have a bad business model. We've talked about this, forever on this show. And they've raised enough money that they're what in Silicon Valley we call the Walking Dead. They have no real prospect of growing or succeeding, but they have enough money that they continue hankering on quarter to quarter. And on this, I respect them for trying to do something to grow, but I just don't know that this is going to be it, because, let's show of hands here. How many people here, have a Prime subscription that in some way gives them one Audible book or more a month? So I think, I don't know that Spotify is going to be successful. You have in addition to the Canny Valley problem of voice quality, at this point, they're competing against habits. Habits and behavior.
Are they using the AI voices for their books?
Yes.
I don't think that's been established.
No, it has. And stuff in stories I read earlier, it wasn't part of the announcement, but in some of the leaks leading up to this, they were saying, yes, they're going to use AI to generate the voices. But I think it's the Microsoft problem. How do you convince people that you have a service that is maybe 90% as good as Google? How do you convince people to search on Bing instead of, going to Google, especially since Google is now a lowercase is a verb, let's Google it.
Yeah.
I think Spotify has the same problem. It's just convincing people to go and try them, instead of, I already have stuff, on Amazon. I already have stuff on Apple. No matter how disgusting, the Tammy Richards thinks their interface may be, they know how to use it and they're using it. What other than Spotify paying the money is going to change their behavior to get them to try their service?
Well, but Mark, I think you make an interesting point that, will this attract people to try Spotify? I mean, I think
I don't know.
I think there's a faction out there that may get that. It's an interesting thing to say, okay, with Audible, you buy the book, you own the book. And so I have access to it for as long as Audible is in business. And if I can use one of the pieces of software that can download it, then I can download it and have it in case Audible goes out of business. Here, it is much more like a library model where I'm renting, scratch that. I'm renting the time to listen to the book, but I have no ownership of it, no adding it to my library for later reference. And that to me is very interesting because I've listened to Audible books that I now own, but I probably won't go back and listen to them again. I'm on to other things. So is this a better model? I don't know.
How big is the audiobook market anyway?
Pretty darn big, Jim.
It's pretty big, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's certainly not big to Apple or Amazon.
It is to Amazon.
Amazon, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Amazon owns Audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But as a percentage of Amazon's business, it's a rounding error.
That's a tough question,
Yeah, I don't know if I agree.
I don't know.
That's a different conversation.
Let's research this and bring this up as as a coda in next week's show if we all think it's important, rather than speculate about data that none of us has at our fingertips.
I don't want to profess that audiobooks is the significant portion of Amazon's business, but audiobooks are a big enough market that
they sued Apple to try to keep them from getting into that market themselves.
They didn't do that. DOJ did that.
Okay,
yeah.
Our government at work trying to help people.
Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Featured Gear, like the OWC Thunderbolt Hub. No matter which Mac you have, you can always use more connectivity, and the OWC Thunderbolt Hub delivers with 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports that are USB-C compatible and a USB-A port that is USB 3.2 Gen 2 compatible. The Hub delivers 60 watts of charging power, and because it's externally powered, doesn't compromise on performance. Find the links at macvoices.com/featuredgear. Hey, there's one more I want to get to. We're going to get away from this one. There's one more thing that I wanted to get to be sure. And I'm putting him in the chat room now, in both chat rooms, actually. And that is this Samsung thing that came out about RCS and chats being compatible between Android and iPhone or messages. And they're trying to push Apple into subscribing to this RCS standard. Why?
Can I summarize this?
Sure, go for it.
Ken Ray in his podcast today, he discussed this, and sort of at the end of his analysis, he said, "Well, you can't chain Apple into this, because people who don't get the right color, text message, is it going to stop more Android people? Is it going to make them switch to Apple? Maybe. Is it going to shame Apple people into switching to Android? Probably not. So, I think Google has tried this and failed, and now their partner is trying a similar shame on you, public disgrace, and that's where it is. And I jumped to the conclusion, if somebody wants to talk about what the issues are and the difference between the two different services, go ahead. But I think this is just noise that 3 weeks from now or 3 days from now, no one's going to remember.
Ben?
Yeah, I think this is more the marketing team than the guys at Android and Samsung hardware are actually serious about getting RCS in there. Honestly, right now, if there's any chance at it, it's going to be more through the EU DMA than any kind of marketing campaign.
Because I would say, I mean, I correspond with people, who have, a couple of people who don't, have Android devices, and their stuff is in blue instead of green.
Green instead of blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I know to them, I can just only send text. I can't send them, or maybe a link, but I can't send them images and other stuff. And there's again human behavior. They're set in their ways. They don't know what they're missing. So I can understand why people would like to open up the gate, but because we're in Apple, I don't think we feel disadvantaged because we can intercommunicate with Apple and Android. Maybe enough Android people feel like they're disadvantaged and they're putting pressure on Google, and why can't you do this? And that's why Google and now Samsung is trying to pressure Apple into opening up.
Yeah.
And I guess I looked at this and I thought, this just feels like Samsung and Google trying to homogenize things a little bit more.
To their own
least common denominator.
Yeah.
Worst common denominator.
They clearly have the lower end of this stick, and they want to pull the stick down even. And there was that quote, the famous quote from Tim Cook saying that tell your mother wants to text, then buy her an iPhone.
Buy her an iPhone.
I'm fascinated that they continue to do this, and they continue to point out, sort of in a backwards way, unintentionally, the desirability of the blue bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
And under the guise
it's not
of,
like they can't text. Yeah. It's not like, if somebody that owns an Android phone wants to send me a text on my phone, I'll get it. As long as it's going to the correct number or email account or however I have that message set up. And it's not like there's not a plethora of different messaging services out there. So if you need some feature that isn't available through standard standard Android services, well, then you and whoever it is that you need to do all this stuff with need to get a different kind of message app that's cross-platform, and then you can just do all that stuff. I just don't see why anyone needs to make a change in the way Apple does it when 90% of the functionality is there. It's of course you're not going to get all the great features that you get with an iPhone through messaging, but the rest of it, it's just like it's icing on the cake. You want to send me a text? Send me a text. I'll get the text.
Right. It's sort of like they need to send it. Hey, guy, you low life Android user, check your email, for all the great links I want to share with you.
Okay, well then send me an email, or do it through some other messaging service,
or do both. I mean, you're missing the humor in my point, but I agree with you. There's no shortage of messaging systems.
I don't know. It just, I looked at this and it's like, I know we're Apple users, so I know we come to this kind of story with a certain amount of bias. But I look at it and think, all you're doing is you're pushing, you're elevating your competition. Well, you're asking for mediocrity. You're elevating your competition by saying we want to play too, and that's a theme that seems to keep cropping up here in our discussions week in and week out. People saying, Apple, you should do it this way so we can play too.
Can I interject a serious point here, which is the people. There's sort of like three people I correspond most who have Android devices, and the reason for that, and I've asked them, and it's because they're so tied into the Windows ecosystem, and yes, there may be iPhone, etc. will work with that, but they have their blinders on. They think, okay, it may not work. I don't want to take the risk, so. I think if Apple wants to try to convert and get those more people to switching, it should, campaign more about compatibility and how there's, low friction or zero friction switching costs. Because what I found in my unscientific, sample is, the fear, it might not work, is the thing that keeps people, on the phones. And one person in particular, he drives his Android phones and literally until they break, and or won't hold charge for battery charge for more than an hour. So he's an economic buyer. The other two is they're tied into a Windows ecosystem, and they're just worried that all this other stuff won't work.
Yeah.
And
Ben, go. Sorry.
yeah, I work with Android people all the time. Do you want to know how much difficulty there is in interfacing with them? Practically zero.
Yep.
I mean, this is something completely overblown. I mean, whatever
are there common sticking points?
I mean, any sticking points there are quickly overcome. If text messaging can't do something, we move to like Facebook Messenger or something. It's
or
not
WhatsApp.
an issue.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, one last thing, and that's our resident researcher Jim Ray has gone out and found the Association of American Publishers' final industry sales estimates also put the trade audiobook market at 1.8 billion. So, and he says Amazon's retail e-commerce sales worldwide will reach 746.22 billion in 2023. So, Jim, your rounding error comment may be appropriate, but $1.8 billion is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
It may not be important to Amazon, but it is, that would be a juicy opportunity for Spotify.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's 1.8 billion. And really, you're not having to develop anything for it. You're having to maintain the infrastructure. But once you get the infrastructure in place, the apps in place, you have to maintain them. And obviously you have to feed the machine, but Spotify has to feed the machine too, as far as content.
That's not 1.8 billion in profit.
No, that's
That's
revenues.
sales.
That's not sales, that's revenues. So
yeah, but still.
But again, the strategic value to Amazon is sort of like, the strategic value to Apple of having watches, phones, tablets, computers all work together. It's part of the ecosystem.
Yeah,
so
accessories. It's like Apple's accessories. They don't make much money on them, but they keep putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but not just that, guys. But think about it. I think you're discounting the idea that Amazon has been the place to go for books, and then it was the place to go for ebooks through the Kindle, and then it's the place to go for audiobooks through the Audible app on iPhone or any of the Amazon devices or Android devices. So it's all tied into the book market, whatever that means. And we'll have to do some research and see what the book market is if you start looking at all of it. What Jim just found is 1.8 billion in audiobooks.
Chuck, that's a great elaboration of what I was saying, that it's strategically important to Amazon because it's part of their overall book ecosystem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And that also includes used books, by the way. So it's not just
Yes. Good point.
Yeah. And I mean, having that in the ecosystem is a big reason why Amazon bought Audible.
Right.
How long ago did that buy occur? Ben, do you remember?
It's been a number of years.
Let me put it this way. It's gotten to the point where all the years blend together.
Yes, you were dating high school cheerleaders when it acquired it.
I hope not. I would have been in my 30s.
Well, and remember that Amazon, they can do things like, if you buy a book on Kindle, it'll immediately say, "Oh, you want to add this on Audible?"
Right.
And vice versa. Spotify is not going to be able to do that. And they even have, I've never tried it, but I assume it probably works well, that you can go back and forth and read a little bit on Kindle, and then go to listen some on your Audible, and then go back and read some on Kindle of the same book. So, Spotify's not going to be able to touch that. And just the whole thing of what you said, Chuck. Yeah, Amazon's, people, it's a brand, for books. And, Spotify's, just because Spotify shows up and says we're here, they're going to have a very difficult time disrupting Amazon there. Look, Apple hasn't, I don't think, really disrupted Amazon and books.
No, the DOJ, the DOJ prosecuted them. So if I were to summarize this,
but but Apple's still in, the book business. They have books. You can buy ebooks, and you can buy audiobooks from Apple, and Apple has not stopped doing that, and it, presumably, there's enough business there for Apple that finds it worthwhile to continue. But my guess is that Amazon is, still by far the bulk of that business, and that Apple really hasn't made much inroad there.
So Jim, since like 2010, when I bought my first iPad, I bought less than 5, physical books since then. I bought dozens of books that I can read on Kindle. So I guess my question is, relative to the book market, Apple tried, and they tried and failed, and the DOJ spanked them. And after that court case came down, all of a sudden Amazon Kindle book prices increased. So I guess the question is, in terms of your book reading habits, what's the mix between ebooks versus paper books?
I don't read paper books.
Mm-hmm.
For how long?
More around a decade. And
that's
I should clarify. I should tell you that I own at least 5,000 physical books, maybe 10,000. I don't know, but virtually none. It's mostly on the iPad. I have a Kindle that I haven't plugged in. I did use the Kindle for a while, for 2 or 3 years, but now, and then I've done some on the phone, but mostly on the iPad.
What was that?
I have a Kindle. It's in the other room. Otherwise, I'd show it like Webb did. But I found interesting inversion that in some recent buys, the paperback version is less than the Kindle version. But I don't want the paper. I don't want physical stuff. So I get it on I get the ebook Kindle version.
Well, not only do I not want physical stuff, I can't read paper without glasses. But on the iPad, no problem. So I don't even know where my glasses are.
What size iPad do you have?
10. I have a 10.
Is that a Pro? The Pro is like 10
it's
and
a
12.
2018. Here it is. Stuck in the charger. Stuck in the Magic Dock. Here it is.
Okay. Yeah, I have a 2018 Pro. Yeah, I think it's a 12 or 13 or 12.8, 12.9, whatever.
This is the same one as you have, but it's not the big one, not the 12.
Guys, I'm going to wrap this up. We've gone way long. But to answer the one question that was asked, March 19th, 2008, 2008, Amazon finished their acquisition of Audible.
Oh,
so
wow, that's really a long time ago.
It's been a lot longer than I thought. Yeah.
What was that? 25 years? 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys know Brent Simmons of Net Newswire fame?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He's worked for Audible for several years.
Interesting. All right, let's go around the room. Let folks know where they can find out where they can catch up with you and tell you what they think of your opinions on everything we've talked about tonight. That should be interesting. So we're going to keep the same order. Mr. Guy Searle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
Where
Chuck.
can folks find you?
Well, you can find me nearly every week on the mymac.com podcast. We just had our 950th episode that I do nearly every week with Gaz. Over on the socials, you can find me on X as Mac Parrot or Vert Shark. I am also Mac Parrot on Counter Social and Mac Parrot at mastodon.social. Let's see. We have a Google Voice number that you can call and give us a bunch of crap on 703-828-4677. 703-828-4677. And
sorry, say that again. 703
703-828-4677.
Okay.
Guess who's going to be calling you, Guy?
Well, that's fine.
Traders are standing by.
You will get a Woody if you call.
Okay.
If you want to know what a Woody is, that's a big W, big O, big T, little I, little E, exclamation mark. That's a Woody.
Okay. Thanks for being here, Guy. Moving
Sure.
on.
Oh, Guy, which mic did you use today?
The same one I've been using for a while. It's the Lewitt 440 Pure.
Sounds very good.
Wonderful, wonderful microphone.
I love your audio quality tonight. It's really good. So
thank you.
It really is.
Use this again.
I've had it for a while, but the problem is when you have this many microphones, you feel obliged to kind of circle them around. But lately, it's like, you know what? Just use a good microphone and shut up about it, Guy. So that's what I've done.
Thank you, Guy.
Thank you.
Jim Ray, where can folks connect with you?
Well, you can find me on the interwebs at provue.com, BROVUE, and also specifically on Mastodon at Provue Jim, same spelling of Provue, Provue Jim at techhub.social.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Ben Rathig, thank you for being here as always. Where can folks find out what is on your mind?
Well, Chuck, you can find me on the plethora of social media at Ben Rathig, at rathig.tech on the web. Tuesday nights, you can find me here on Mac Voices. Thursday on the absent Dave Ginsburg's In Touch with iOS, as well as Thursday and Friday on the Big and Mac shows on the British Tech Network.
Thank you very much, Ben. Really appreciate it.
It's always great.
Mark Fuccio, thank you for being here. Hopefully your background next week will be able to be a little more upbeat than tonight's.
Chuck, I certainly hope so. And it will be inspired by whatever articles you throw out to us, as homework to read to prep for the show.
Sounds good. Where can folks connect with you?
Well, in the physical world, I'm probably under the overpass of Highway 280 and Wolf Road near the Apple campus. And in the virtual world, I'm at X, the site formerly known as Twitter. At the handle is at Mark Fuccio, MarkFuccio, all one word, all lowercase.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Last but absolutely not least, just like we started out, Mr. Webb Bixby gets to close us out. Webb, thank you for being here. Where can folks find you?
Chuck, I'm glad to be here. I appreciate getting the invitation every week. So I'm going to go through like the plethora, as Ben called it. You name it, I'm probably there, and I'm all under Webb Bixby. But we'll go with X today at Webb Bixby, WebbBixby.
Great. Thank you, Webb. And thank you for helping me spend money. I'll let you know how it goes. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices Live. We do this Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. Join us next time at that time in the chat room at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.